Welcome to FitBody Lifestyle, the show where we dive deep into the world of fitness, health, business, relationships, and the art of living a balanced life. I'm Jami.
And I'm Greg, and we're here to give you the benefit of our experiences in the fitness and bodybuilding industry, the corporate world, running a business, personal development, and building healthy relationships.
Whether you're sweating it out in the gym, hustling in your business, or seeking balance in your everyday life, you're in the right place.
So lace up those sneakers and grab that water bottle, and let's get ready to transform our minds, our bodies, and our lives.
Welcome back to another episode of FitBody Lifestyle. We're so happy to have you here today. I'm here with my partner in crime, Papa Bear, aka Greg DeBernard, and we're going to be talking about the impact of powerless words. And I think this is like something that's really changed the way we communicate in a lot of ways, and it's fun to hold each other accountable to omitting these powerless words so that our message is coming across loud and clear. So I'm excited to talk a little bit about this.
Right. And I think a lot of people know that Bruce Lee is my favorite philosopher, and there's something that he has said. I'm going to read this so I don't mess it up. Don't speak negatively about yourself, even as a joke. Your body doesn't know the difference. Words are energy and they cast spells. That's why it's called spelling. Change the way you speak about yourself and change your life. And we think about powerless words in that vein. And the other quote I would give you is from the famous author Maya Angelou, who said, and poet, who said that people not always remember how you made them, what you said to them, but they will remember how you made them feel. Well, make no mistake, how you feel and how you make people feel is a function of how you communicate with them. And, yes, there is nonverbal communication, there's facial expressions, there's, hugging and,
Physical touch,
tapping somebody in the shoulder or something. But these are ways to communicate. But most of the way we communicate is with our words. And so what we wanted to talk about today was how do you communicate for impact, and is the way you're communicating currently maybe undermining what impact your words could possibly be having
on yourself and
and I used a powerless word right there. I said possibly be having.
Right. Well, and having on yourself as well as having on others. So our number one powerless word is one that's really challenging to overcome. And that one's got a quote to it too. If you're a Star Wars fan, I can't do it because you'll make fun of me because I don't do a good Yoda impression.
I don't pull out the Yoda impersonation for just any specific occasion. It's not like I can do it on demand. Actually, I can. But am I doing it?
I'm demanding.
Oh my God! I can't believe. I can't believe. Really?
This is what you get for making fun of my impression.
The comments on this, well, nobody's going to watch. Nobody, whatever. Okay. So the Yoda quote, Yoda from Star Wars, some people are saying, what's Star Wars? Yoda on Star Wars says, do or do not, there is no try. Oh, our producer's over there laughing now at this, and he's sitting there. I can't, because he's like, damn, that is a good impersonation of Yoda. Okay?
And I can't believe you did it. Normally you won't do it on demand. So try is the powerless word that we're getting at here. And, one of the things that, of course, we talk a lot about that we love Rapport Leadership International, and this is a big part of what they teach, but it's always fun when the instructor says, try to pick up your phone. And then the person, picks up their phone and no, try to pick it up. Like, how do you show me try? There's really no such thing.
There's really no action around it.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's the point, is that, when I say I'm going to try to do something, I'm really not fully committed to doing it. You just assume I'm not going to do it.
I used to give this example all the time, as I said. So in the military, if I'm in the briefing room and I'm the commander and I'm briefing my soldiers, and I come in and say, okay, everybody, so I don't want to do this, but the boss is telling me that we have to do this, so we're going to give this a try. And at the moment where I just done two major things to undermine any chance that this has of success. First, I haven't owned it myself as a leader because I'm tying it to my boss and say it's all them, it's not me. The second part that I've done is I said, let's try this. By telling my troops, my soldiers, that I want them to try something, I've basically given them a free rein to not succeed at doing it. There's a whole different impact than if I come in that same briefing room and I say, hey, everybody, listen, I know we've been doing things a certain way, and we've been very successful at doing that. And today we're going to do something differently. We're going to do X, Y, and Z instead. That has a completely different impact than it does if I say, hey, we're going to try this.
100%. 100%. And, so I definitely challenge everyone to, when they catch themselves using that word, how could you phrase that? How could you just pull that out and give a little bit more oomph to what you're doing, and understanding that you can do something and fail. And we've talked about that,
That's right.
In other episodes, where failure is wonderful. That's actually a way to learn. So, it doesn't mean that you're going to succeed every time you do something. It means you're going to go into it with full conviction, rather than 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
That's right.
So,
And here's the challenge on this word is that just get an accountability partner and say, hey, look, we are going to embark on everybody makes New Year's resolutions, but I don't know many people that make New Year's resolutions around eliminating powerless words from their vocabulary. So make that commitment to yourself and get an accountability partner and say, listen, we are no longer going to use the word try. Okay. Now there may be, as a lawyer, I had a real difficulty with this because I'm going to try a case, which is trial or try the case. That's just the use of that word. But where we got into real challenge with it is when we're doing it around the table with our kids. And we were saying there's a difference between, hey, I have a bite, try this bite versus taste this bite. So we came up with that alternative, and we held each other accountable for taste this.
And attempt is try in a tuxedo.
That's right. So if you're using it, I'm going to attempt it. Well, that's just a different variation of the same word of try. The purpose here is that try, the word itself, from a neuro-linguistic programming point of view, has zero impact in terms of commitment to doing something. It is it's
a powerless word.
It's a powerless word.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Go to the next one.
So the next words are the should, would, could.
Well, now you're combining.
I know I'm combining because I like putting these together because
they rhyme.
Well, yes, and I think it's easier to remember.
Okay.
So if I'm saying, well, I would or I could, it's very similar to try. I'm not saying I'm going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I'm just putting some ambiguity around it, and I'm not really fully committing. So I'm telling myself I'm not fully committed. I'm giving myself an out, and then whoever I'm expressing this to is hearing my lack of commitment as well.
Could is endless possibilities, but what it is not is a commitment.
Right.
Okay. It is basically saying within the realm of possibilities, I could do that. Okay. It's possible. I could. But if you're asking somebody,
are you going to?
But if you're asking somebody because you want a commitment to it, is that really communicating a commitment to doing something? So if my lovely wife here says, do the dishes, and I say, well, I could do that. Am I telling her that I'm going to do that, or that it's actually going to get done? Or is it that I am doing it? Or am I just saying, well, I could do it? Well, I know you could do it, but will you do it? Will you commit to doing that?
Right. Or if I ask you, at X time, will you do the dishes? And you say, well, I would if I didn't have this or that or the other, rather than I'm going to check my schedule and see if I'm available during that time, and I'll get back to you and let you know if I will be able to, or I'll give you another time. So it's really just going back to, it's not that it's always going to work. You're just giving a little bit more of a definitive commitment as to when, where, and how you're going to accomplish something.
Right. And I love that word could, because it is one of those words that sneaks in. So seemingly it's like a little nefarious word that kind of sneaks into our communication. But and excuse me, that's another word that I don't like using.
We'll get to that
one. And what you'll find is just there's a difference in communicating and the impact of that communication if you use that word could. I could do that. But is that really a commitment? If you go into your boss and say, hey, I'd like a raise. Well, I could do that.
But will you?
If you say, great, awesome, and you walk out, and then you look at your next check, and there's like, I thought you said you could do the raise. And I said I could do it. I didn't say I would do it, okay, or I will do it, all right?
Right.
What's next?
And then should. So,
yeah.
I mean, should is just the same thing. I'm just now putting it on you. And if you should on people, it can get very messy.
I should. Oh, our producer's laughing at it. I love it when we make our producer laugh. But it is true that you just think about when people say, "Oh, I should have gone to the gym today. I should have hit my macros. I should have done this. I should have done that." All you're doing is it's just an excuse. It's just an excuse, and it's got no power to it whatsoever. What I would rather you say is, "Hey, I did not hit my macros today. I will do that tomorrow."
Right.
That's a commitment.
Right.
But saying I really should go to the gym today. Well, that should ain't gonna do the reps.
Right.
Should ain't gonna press the weight.
Exactly.
Will press the weight.
Will.
Yeah, will. Okay, what's next?
So our next one is maybe and might. And we're in the same area of that powerlessness or I should say the lack of commitment. We want a commitment. I'm going to, I'm not going to. Maybe I will wash those dishes and then I come home and they're not washed, right? I might get around to it at some point. That's just, I think that almost goes without explanation. You can hear the words and it just sounds completely powerless. If somebody said that to me, I would make the assumption it's not going to happen.
I know that, we have not necessarily talked about this yet, but I think this is a related topic, is how we text in our communication. And I want you, to pay attention to your text and the words that people use in text. And I know a lot of people are doing, Jami in particular, and I do as well. We dictate a text. And I always go back and look at the language that I'm using and ask myself, is this communicating a commitment? Is this communicating my will do something? Or am I being kind of, yeah, that's possible, or yeah, I maybe could do that. Maybe I could do that. Maybe is not a will do. Maybe is just simply something, again, talking about the realm of possibilities and everything is possible. It is not communicating for impact.
Right. So the next one is want to.
We're going to get through this list really fast.
Oh, I have so much more.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay.
You want me to just go slow?
Just go slow.
Go slow.
Yeah, go slow.
So the next one is going to be want to, going to. So again, I think what we keep coming back to is that commitment. I want to get you a birthday present.
Want is usually followed by one of my least favorite words, which is but.
Right. But.
It
leaves space for but.
Yes. I want to get you,
And although we like butts in the bodybuilding world.
That's right.
Not the kind of butts, not the conjunction but.
There's a completely different impact in your communication. A lot of people, we haven't talked about butt. Can we talk about butt for a little bit?
Let's talk about butt. Okay. It just makes sense now.
Let's talk about butts. Okay, let's talk about butts.
Let's talk about butts. We love to talk about butts.
Most people have had a butt sandwich, where it's this. It's a lot of times it happens with a breakup, or it happens in a performance review, where if it's in a breakup situation, the person that you're in a relationship with, or if you're in an employment situation, your boss, you did really well on those quarterly reports, or right after a presentation. Jami, you did really well on that presentation, but there were 5 misspellings. There was you went over time. The reason why but becomes, and actually I don't know that but is a powerless word as much as it is not the right word. Maybe.
Well, when you said that to me, you took the power out of the compliment that you, and that's what happens is that, you have an intention of expressing something positive and then you throw that but in there, you just negated the positivity and then shoved in the person's face, whatever the criticisms are.
Right. You're trying to ease into a criticism instead of giving somebody real feedback. And the butt sandwich is where it was compliment, criticism, compliment. And I've been the recipient of that. And it doesn't, the downside of that is that I appreciate what I'm doing well and please tell me that and tell me what I can do better. Instead of telling me, hey, you did really well as some kind of, offset for what I'm going to tell you is not not in the sense, it's not delivered in the sense of how I can be better. It's really delivered in the sense of how I failed. And if you're communicating with people, the difference in communicating is this, is it, so if I'm telling Jami on that same presentation, hey, Jami, you did really well on that presentation, but there were 5 misspellings and you went over time. So that's one impact. Now, the difference is, hey, Jami, you did really well on that presentation, and I think you can do it better the next time you do it. I think if you make sure you run spell check on that to make sure that there are no misspellings, and maybe time yourself before you deliver it so that you can stay within that 30-minute window and not get into 40 minutes. And I think that will make it even more impactful. I'm really pleased with what you did today, and let's work to be better the next time. That's a completely different pitch because I changed one word.
Right. Because it's inclusive rather than exclusive.
Right.
You're with the but you negated. And it's funny, when I first learned this technique of replacing but with and, I thought there's no way that's going to work every time. And it actually does.
It does.
Like, so,
I know.
that's a great challenge to, when you catch yourself using
the
but,
but.
See if you can replace it with and then how does that enhance or change the message, if at all?
Now, if you're looking at your butt or you're admiring your partner's butt, okay to use butt. That's
or if you're working your butt in the gym.
And some of the butts are definitely not powerless.
You can do like some heavy squats with the butt. And back to what we were talking about is the want to. I feel like with want to, it's one of those that's very similar to try. Mm-hmm. It equates in a lot of cases to try. So I want to come to meet you, at the restaurant tonight. Okay, you want to. Are you going to?
Yeah.
Are you not going to? Should I be there at 7? Should I not be there at 7? It's that whole thing of kind of leaving that door open to not doing what it is you're intending to,
right,
or not intending to do it. Just not being clear with really what you want. I think a lot of times when people use this, it's when they don't want to do something and they're afraid to say it. Mm-hmm. And I was,
I would love to go to this high school reunion, but I'm engaged that I'm getting a root canal that day, or something to that effect. It's that this one's a little difficult in the sense that I do think that expressing a desire of wishing you could be at a place and using the word, I think there's just a different way to do it. I love that you're having this event and I would love to attend, and I'm not able to because I have a prior engagement. Yes, the would part in there is to me a little different, but I think you can, excuse me, see, I'm catching myself with this. And I will tell you this, as you guys are, as you're listening to this and you start thinking about some of these words and when you use them, the moment that you start raising your awareness to them is the moment that you're going to start making in-sentence corrections the same way that I just did, where I said, but, and then, and I will find myself doing that, and we'll find ourselves using, if the try word creeps in, we'll say, try. And sometimes Jami will say, try. And, hey, honey, I'm going to try to get the dishes done today. Try. Okay. I'm going to get the dishes done today. That's a whole different thing.
Right. And I think that's the best way to hold somebody accountable in the powerless words, is just to repeat the powerless word with a question, with the questioning voice. Try.
Yep.
And then then you get a chance to go, actually, I am going to, or actually, I'm going to check my calendar and see whether or not I'm going to have time to do that. That's an okay answer. I mean, it's the idea behind it is there's some sort of commitment to action or to inaction. If it's something, you're like, this is something I'm not willing to do or I don't want to do. I really appreciate when people are direct. And, I know there's sometimes a fear of conflict. There's a fear of, getting a reaction out of people. So sometimes we want to kind of tiptoe around things. If we're doing a get together and, I send out a message, hey, who would like to come? Who doesn't want to come? I don't want people to feel that they're going to upset me if they're not able to make it. And I know sometimes people are that way. Like they don't want to say no. So instead they'll say, I want to come, or, I'll do my best, or I'll try, or whatever. I'll attempt, try in a tuxedo. For me as the hostess, if somebody really knows they're not going to come, it helps me to know for a head count, because I'm making, I'm purchasing things that I'm going to be serving or whatever the situation is. So it's really helpful for me if the person goes, hey, I'm not going to be able to make it. Perfect.
Yep.
No problem. I'll let you know next time. And hopefully maybe you'll be able to make that time,
Versus saying I could make it, or I'll try to make it, and then you as the hostess or host are left wondering, do I plan for 15 people or 14 people or whatever? And that can be significant for people. So and really this is simply about getting to that point of again, communicating for impact, but it's also about what's your word. How is your word when you commit to something worth something? Does that mean that you will show up at a certain time?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So our next word we're going to talk about is stuff.
Stuff. What's wrong with stuff?
Again, it's just ambiguous. I mean, what are we talking about?
Yeah.
It's funny because I know there's sometimes where I'm distracted and that one will slip in because I'm just like, what's the word? What's the thing I'm thinking about? Stuff. It's just kind of like I feel like it's a filler word rather than getting to the point.
Well, we saw this with our kids a lot, and when they would text us, what are you doing? Stuff. I mean, literally, that was the one word response to stuff.
Well, every day, pick them up from school.
Okay, how did school go today? What'd you do? We did stuff. We did some stuff. I mean, it's just one of those things where, from a communication perspective, whether it's lazy or just ambiguous, it's just not, there's just nothing there's nothing impactful behind it. And I think that's really what our purpose in talking about this is if you don't want to tell somebody, then don't tell them. but just to throw out that stuff, what you're communicating to me, if I said, hey, what did you pick up from the store, and you said stuff, then what you're telling me is that either you don't trust me enough to tell me, B, that you don't have time enough to tell me, or C, that you don't know what you picked up. But that first one is that you don't care enough to tell me about it. I would rather you just say, I picked up some groceries, I picked up some water, whatever. I mean, you could give a little detail to that. I know that's a small example to it, but it really is, it's about caring enough to have impact with your words.
Yeah. I mean, when we speak powerfully, it builds trust. And that's the biggest thing, when we're decisive and clear in our communication and confident, it gives the person, it gives ourselves and the person or people that we're communicating with that confidence that they can trust us, because we're giving the specifics. When we start getting vague with things like using stuff and, some of these other words we're talking about, then there's kind of that sense of like, I don't really know what it is you're wanting to convey to me. Do you know what you're really, intending or going to follow through with? I'm just not sure. And I do think that people that speak more definitively and clearly do tend to be people that follow through on their actions because of their own commitment to what they're saying. We're going to think twice if we don't show up somewhere when we've told somebody I will be there versus I might, so that person is going to have that sense of security, that sense of trust, that we're going to do what we said we're going to do, or minimally, if something comes up, we're going to reach out and let them know. If I said I might, I don't have any responsibility I might do some stuff. I don't really at that point have any sort of responsibility to follow up to let you know if I'm not doing the stuff, because you don't even know what the stuff is to begin with.
That's true.
So, I mean, that you can see where that starts to create that gray area, that lack of safety in a relationship, even.
Lack of trust, right.
Lack of trust, lack of safety. And those things are huge. I mean, when we come, whether it be, us holding ourselves accountable, holding those people we care about accountable, like knowing that we can, count on, what somebody's telling us to be.
Well, again, that ties in with our theme here, which is communicating for impact. And so you're a host, and I'm going to build on that. You've put out an invitation to people and say, hey, are you able to show up Friday night at 7 for this dinner that I've prepared? You get the following responses: I'll try, I might, I could, I will be there, or yes. So you think about all those responses, and I think those kind of illustrate the power behind the communication. And when you're saying, but Greg, that's just a response to somebody inviting me to come to dinner. Do I really need to worry about communicating with impact for that? And my response is yes.
Do you want to build trust in that
That's right.
relationship?
That's right. What do you want? And I think, I look at each communication, so many of which I have learned, and by learned, I mean I've failed at certain things in those communications. When I have gotten lax or just not intentional about the way that I was communicating, those are the times when I walked away feeling, man, I did not communicate as clearly as I wanted to. I was not as concise as I wanted to be. I was not as clear, and I certainly wasn't as confident as I wanted to be. As a coach, there's a difference between, hey, coach, should I put on my tan now? Well, you could. Okay. You could do that. You could. Okay. Am I really telling the athlete what they need to do versus, hey, coach, should I put on my tan now? Yes.
Yes, you need to have it done by 8 p.m. tonight.
Yeah.
I suggest you do it after you're done with your shower. Give it absolutely. Being very specific and clear. Interested in changing your life or stepping on stage? Join FitBody Fusion today.
Experience the FitBody Fusion difference with tools, knowledge, and community support to reach your healthy and sustainable lifestyle.
We guide thousands on their fitness journeys, from seasoned athletes to those who are simply seeking a healthier life.
Our expert coaches provide personalized plans and unwavering support, empowering you to thrive.
FitBody Fusion is more than just training. It's a community. We understand the challenges of solo fitness journeys, which is why we foster a supportive environment where members encourage and motivate each other.
Join the FitBody Fusion community today and unlock your full potential.
Head to fitbodyfusion.com to sign up for a free consultation.
And do it today.
So our next word.
Oh, we're going to the next word.
Is just.
Oh, I hate just.
Yeah.
I use it and I hate it.
Yes. I mean, and the thing is, we all use all these words and we hold each other accountable. I mean, we often do it after action. I'll tell you, I'll ask you, after, and I just did that the other night. I'm like, how did my message come across the way I intended it? And so we all do that. All do this. I mean, it's kind of fun though. It's a fun thing to play around with and just and see how this fits for you. The word just takes the power out of whatever's coming after it. So literally inserting the word just takes it down a notch, brings down the message a notch. It says that it is not as meaningful as maybe you intend it to be.
If you ever wanted to get my ire, my anger, when I was in the Army, in particular when I served in the Army National Guard, if I ever heard a soldier say, "I'm just in the National Guard," man, I will tell you, I was on them like white on rice. I would not let that go because look, on your uniform, I said, and I would do this all the time. I said, "What does it say on your uniform?" It says Army. I said, "Does it say National Guard?" No. Then what are you in? I'm in the Army, sir. And and I said, then don't forget it. Be proud of what you're doing and what you're serving, because it was not like we had different standards. We had the same Army standards. We were in the Army. And yes, the National Guard is the group that we're in, or the division, or the service method that we're in, but it was the Army. Not just the Army. It was the Army. When I was in the corporate world and I had an employee, I'm just an insurance agent. Really, you're not that. You're so not proud of you. I want you just to listen to that. I'm just. I hear this, and let me translate it into our world. I'm just an NPC athlete.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm just an amateur.
Yeah, I'm just an amateur. Man, I hate that. Why would you undermine what you're doing? You're a competitive athlete. And if you're not an IFBB doesn't make you better. The title alone is not the thing that makes you a competitor or an athlete. It just signifies that you've reached that level of achievement. But if you're not, see, I caught myself. And if you're not proud of who you are and what you're doing, how do you expect anybody else to be proud of that? If you're transmitting that lack of confidence in who you are and what you do, all you're doing is undermining the work that you're putting into. And man, I'll tell you, I know some amateur athletes that train just as hard, if not harder, work just as hard, if not harder, have got, and they're doing so in some cases with a lot of different
And you could even take
challenges.
those justs out and
Yeah.
say they work as hard, if not harder.
Oh, did I say just?
You did.
Well, thank you for holding me accountable.
You're welcome.
They work as hard. You're correct, honey. See, I did it myself.
We
They
do
work
it.
as hard,
I've
yeah.
caught myself multiple
so easy.
times in this conversation with that word in particular. It's an easy one to slip in there.
Man, thank you for helping me be better, because that is a word that I do not like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you're saying that was a just ruling from the jury, good to go. Okay. That was a just result from the Bachelorette in terms of who she selected. Awesome. Okay. That's fine. And be aware of how you're using that word. Are you undermining what you're conveying both to somebody else and to yourself? If I'm saying I'm just an amateur athlete, man, what does that say about the pride that you're taking in what you're doing?
There's a similar word that came up in a dinner we had with a friend just recently,
Yeah.
where this person was complimenting you.
Oh.
And she said, you actually have a good point there. And she's one of our rapport people. And she stopped for a second. She goes, hold on, rewind, take out that word actually. You had a great point. And it was really interesting because you didn't take it this way. We all have our own filters though, so you think about the power, and I agreed with her. I was like, wow, that did take the power out of your message. If I'm telling you, wow, Greg, you had such a great point. Like, I really value that communication you just gave me. That's completely different than, wow, Greg, you actually had a good point. I mean, what is this, my first good point ever that you've heard from me before? Do I normally have really crappy points?
Right.
And so I thought it was really interesting, to reflect on that. And I feel like that one, is very much aligned with the just. It's taking the power away from the message, and it's just a filler word. There's really no reason for the word to be in there if you think about it. Like, when does it ever really have to be there? Unless we're talking about something being just, right? Because we're talking about justice rather than, the powerless word.
Yes.
Kind of like
I got you, baby.
Kind of like you were saying in your court. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're trying a case.
Yeah.
No. It just, wow, it's amazing.
It's amazing. Once you tune your filter in your ears to these things, you will become I promise you will become a better, more confident, more impactful speaker. And what I loved about the story that you just told was not because the word did not impact me the way that she thought it did. But what didn't, and what see that, what I did there? And what did impact me significantly was the fact that she was so aware of the words that she was doing and how she was communicating in that moment. That presence in in her communication inspired me to want to be more present in my communication, so that the words that I'm using are thoughtful, intentional, and made for purpose.
And even though you didn't notice it, it doesn't mean your subconscious didn't maybe blunt the message a little bit. That maybe would have been even more powerful. And I think that's where she was coming from, was not that you were offended, more so that how much more powerful could that message have been.
Very well
had
said.
it been more direct. And so I want to jump into this next one because I know it's your favorite. It's when somebody says, Greg, honestly, I'm going to express to you what I think, whatever comes after the word honestly. Like, the minute you preface something with honestly,
or can I be honest?
Right.
Yeah.
Then immediately I know, and I catch myself doing it occasionally. I mean, I think I wrote it in
I'll do it from time to time.
In a message recently, and I was proofreading my message and just hacked off the word, and then finished my statement, because why do we need to preface that? I mean, I feel like immediately, and if I hear that in my head, I'm like, are you being honest? Why did you need to preface it and tell me you were being honest? My assumption is that if you're saying something to me, it's truth. If you have to tell me it's a truth prior to telling me what it is, then I'm already I've got
Yeah,
a little question mark.
What does that say? Can I be honest with you? In the
No,
military,
lie to me, please.
in the military, if a soldier came up to you and said, "Sir, may I speak frankly?" and it's like, so you knew, or you got this. With all due respect, sir, what that basically means is I'm about to disrespect you, but I'm gonna preface it with all due respect to kind of see if I can save that. But and I always found that to be along that same line as using honestly or can I be honest with you? It's like, no, don't be honest with me. I want you to lie. What kind of question is that? If you're saying honestly, then the implication there is that before you were not being honest, or the implication is that if you chose to, you would lie to me in this instance. It's not impactful and it's certainly not powerful.
Mm-hmm. And so I that's an easy one, I feel like, to get rid of.
Not easy. Because I think in our day and age, I find people using that a lot because transparency, authenticity are values that have been championed, and rightly so. And being authentic and being transparent, these are characteristics that we want more of. And because there is so many things that are not transparent, so many things that are not authentic, that I do feel that people
that they feel like they need to qualify.
I'm finding a more tendency of people to say, being transparent, okay, or being, I'm going to be really transparent here. I don't think you need to say that to have the power. Using the word vulnerability, I love people being vulnerable, and I would ask, and I have said this, so I'm just telling you my own noise here, which is there are times when I've qualified something. I'm going to be really vulnerable here. Do I really need to say that, or can I just say, something? When my father passed away, it really impacted me significantly. Do I need to preface that with I'm going to be really vulnerable and tell you this? Okay, I'm not
right. The vulnerabilities in the message,
right.
And
I'm not discouraging its use, and I'm not because at all, not at all. What I am asking you to do, and you and me, myself, I'm asking myself to do this is, do I really need the qualification of that statement? Would that statement be more impactful, more intentional if I just said it?
right. And embody the things that you're preferencing. Embody honesty, embody vulnerability, embody authenticity, and then give the message from that place rather than using the qualifying language is basically what we're saying.
Right.
And I mean, hey, there's a time and place, that you might, like you said, want to say, I need to be vulnerable with you in this moment. There may be a time and place. So it's not.
And I do, and absolutely, and there is.
Right.
And I'm not, again, I'm not discouraging its use. I'm not criticizing the use. I am asking this question for you, which is the question I'm asking for myself. I'm not even asking you this question, you being the audience. I'm asking myself this question of, do I really need to qualify what I'm about to say by saying that? Could I say it and then at the end of it say, that was really difficult for me. That was really difficult for me to share. That was hard. It's hard for me to be vulnerable. That has a different impact than say, I'm going to be very, very vulnerable here and talk about something. And I'm not saying one is right and one is wrong. I'm saying be thoughtful in your communication and really think about the impact that you could have.
Right.
Oh, I use could. The impact that you want to have.
That you will have.
That you will have.
Right. Is the next one. Is the next one. There it goes.
Yeah, there it is. It's so easy.
When I do what's happening in my mind, I'm thinking through what I'm going to say next. So it happens, and I do find that people that do it a lot sometimes can lose the message, can kind of lose the listener a little bit in there. And I know we've all seen, people who are giving a speech or maybe a podcast or just people that use those pauses, those ums a lot in their communication. And I can say for myself, like, it definitely takes the power out of the message for me. If one slips in here and there, it's, again, this is something to keep questioning and looking at. It's when that consistent there's
there's there's different little fillers here that we use. And I know I've told you this story before, so I'm sorry to repeat this to you, but and I know you love this story. So I'm at instructor training class training school for the military, and there was the instructor for it was Sergeant, and he sat in the back of the class. And I gave the first presentation, and he had his legs crossed and his hands down. I couldn't really see what he was doing, but every time, excuse me, and at the end of the presentation, he said, "Sir, great presentation, and and I don't know if he said and, he may have used but, and you used 72 times and 42 times."
Wow.
And he said, and
he was counting.
I know it because he had two bicycle clickers that he had, one for each, and he clicked every time I said it, and so he had the countdown. And when he said that to me, I am telling you, I was mortified because I had no recollection that I had done that. And then as I became more attuned to listening to the ums or the ers or the uhs, I did what I just did there, which is take a pause instead of feeling like I have to fill that space with a noise. And I'm auditory, so I like noise, and it takes away from your communication. There's a difference, and is this, if I'm communicating with Jami and I say, honey, I've been really thinking about how we communicate. And I want to be really intentional and make sure that I'm telling you that I love you. So there were pauses in there. Now, I'm going to give that same thing. Honey, I really want to be thoughtful about how we communicate. And I think maybe we could be a little bit better in terms of how we communicate. And I'm not really sure.
Yeah, that sounds completely different. That's such a great demonstration because I felt the difference.
Yeah.
Just listening.
Taking a pause to collect your thought, to be purposeful in your communication, to be mindful and intentional. What is the message that I want to deliver here?
There's power in the silence.
Those pauses are so impactful. And I had to think of the word that I wanted to use there. And you can do the same thing. We are in this culture of communicate so quickly, and just taking a moment to be thoughtful, because I know you all have received a text message from somebody who said, like, you use caps in a message and they said, "Why are you yelling at me?" We've talked a little bit about this. Text messages in particular are always going to be subject to the emotion of the person receiving them. So the question I ask you is, do you want to communicate for impact in such a way that before I hit send on a text message, I just take a moment and think, what am I wanting to communicate here? Am I really capturing that? I find that we are just less thoughtful in the way we communicate overall, and you just never know the impact that's going to have. What if somebody just had something really traumatic happen to them and you just were mindless in that communication? And that's right. You were mindless in that communication. That will have an impact on that person.
Absolutely. So there's two more things we're going to cover.
Okay.
One of them is questions at the end of the sentence. For example, when I was a teenager, I got into this habit of putting, after literally everything I said, and my mom would say, "No, I don't know. No, I don't know. No, I don't know," every time I said it. And it drove me absolutely insane. And I stopped doing it. Thank you, Mom. It does take some power out of it. And I feel like it pulls the person out of their thought process of what you're saying. And so, I've heard different versions of it. People might say, okay, or people might say,
right.
You get what I'm saying? It's.
Can I give you an example of this?
Yeah, give me an example.
I was communicating with somebody this weekend. You were with me when this happened. And this individual was telling me some things that were controversial, flat Earth. I think there was discussion of a dome over the planet and some other things that were portals. And listen, I am not saying any of those things don't exist. I just don't know. And it was interesting that the person that was communicating, he, I think, believed these things, and every time he would say something like, there's this dome over the planet, and that's what prevents the rockets from entering the upper atmosphere, right? And everything would end with right. And I knew that the reason is not because he wasn't convicted in what he said, but he wasn't sure that I shared that same belief, which whether I did or I didn't, what it communicated to me is you're not confident, because every time he would say something like that, I would ask him, I would say, is that what you believe? And it was not to accuse him. It was because I wanted to know, are we just talking about something that's out there, or are we just talking about something that you really believe in? And if you do believe in that, I'm not going to criticize you for it. I just want to know what's your truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a good example?
That's a perfect example.
Because it was, there's aliens that walk among us. Aliens that walk among us, right? There's aliens that walk among us, right? Our producer's giving me the eye.
Stay in front of the microphone.
He might be an alien. If he is an alien, I like aliens. So.
Well, that was very entertaining, and it's a real example, and it is exactly what we're talking about, or right or okay, where you're putting that at the end of each of your statements.
It really, what it evidences to me is a lack of confidence and conviction in what you're saying, in that you're wanting to seek that validation or that affirmation from the person you're communicating with, that what you're saying is okay with them. And I get it if you're talking about something that's very controversial, and I think there's a better way to check in with people. If that's truly, if you're talking about,
and it's okay to check in with people.
Right.
It's that where you're using this consistently after each sentence, and it's exactly like what you said, where, do I not have enough conviction when I'm saying that I need that constant confirmation or something back from the other person, which then makes the other person, and you in this case that you gave the example, go, do you believe that? Is that, or are you just messing with me, or what, what's going on here,
And the interesting thing about this, and going back to that example, I was genuinely interested in what this gentleman had to talk about. I wanted to learn more.
It was this that was pulling you out of it.
It was every time he said right, it would just pull me out of it. It was like, wait a second, is that something that I could not tell whether this was actually something that he believed in, or something that he had read about, or a fact or fiction or a belief. I was just trying to get I was wanting to get a sense of the landscape that I was on. That's all.
Right.
That's all.
And so that communication wasn't as effective as it could be, which is really what this is all about. And then the final thing that I wanted to talk about, because I know we're running over time a little bit because we're excited about the subject, is deflections. So like if we're saying, in my opinion, starting the sentence with that, or I'm wondering if it's that starting out the sentence, again, this is kind of a lack of conviction. It's creating some ambiguity before you even get into the meat of the part of the sentence that you're conveying.
Yeah. And I think, I saw this in a lot of board meetings and a lot of meetings overall, with people saying, in my opinion, and just qualifying that by saying, is that really what you're wanting to convey? Is this really something that you disagree with? And if it's something that you disagree with, then just say that you disagree with it. And instead of saying, in my opinion, there's a different way to do this or something. What I usually found is the phrase, in my opinion, or something was about to precede a disagreement with something, and the person didn't have enough conviction or confidence to say, I disagree with that perspective, or I have a different perspective. And let me share that with you. Sometimes it would precede a question. That really wasn't a question. It was really more of a statement that was criticizing a proposal or an outcome that somebody wasn't confident enough to just share that disagreement. I think.
Yeah.
I think it's okay to disagree, and we want to disagree respectfully. And there's a way to do it without being kind of passive aggressive, I guess, for lack of a better description. Yeah.
Right. We don't want to be condescending or passive aggressive. Right. We want to be clear and concise and express our true intent, is really at the end of the day what we're talking about. So I'll go through and review everything. So number one was the T word.
Try.
You can always remember Yoda sitting next to me here.
I did it once. I'm not going to do it again.
Do or do not. Just kidding.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Well, at least you didn't drift into pirate voice with that, because that's normally the universal impersonation for Jami is pirate.
Okay. So then we have our should, would, could, might, maybe, want to, going to, stuff, and then the phrases using our words like I just, using the qualifier honestly, the hesitations, the or those kinds of things, the questions at the end of the statement, and then we covered the deflection. So in my opinion, I was wondering, that kind of thing. So these are all things that are going to keep our communication from being as powerful as we want it to be. And so starting to just pay attention to where these are showing up in your communication, just as we've been doing throughout this conversation. We've demonstrated it.
And I just illustrated one that we did not include is I think, which is, hey, look, and sometimes it's okay to use that word. I will say, and I know that we were mindful of our words when we were correcting ourselves midstream here. So it's not a question of, I think we did that. I know we did it. Now, could we have done it better? Well, probably. and I mean, I because I'm just of the belief that everything we can do a little bit better every time we iterate on it. And see, I caught myself there. Just be mindful of the words and think about the communication impact that you want to have, and just recognize that and recognize.
And I actually didn't add that when I add the but and thing. So
okay,
add that to the list.
Add that to the list.
Yes.
And I think we've covered this topic. And we have covered this topic.
I think we have.
No.
Oh, we have.
We have.
All right. You got me. You got me. Okay. Have fun with it, guys. Like make it fun. Make it a game, because that's what we do. I mean,
that's what we do.
You know.
Yeah. We call each other on this way of communicating, and it's funny that once you enlist a group and community
you didn't
around
catch
this,
that I just said, you know.
I did.
It was a test.
Sorry, I let it go. When you enlist a community around you to help you with this, it becomes a game and it becomes fun.
Yeah. And that's really what it should be. And this is all just about
what it should be.
This is what it's going to be when you do it. It's all about taking your communication to the next level. And that's what this episode's all about. So hopefully some of this will work well in your daily life, and you'll be able to find ways to get your point across a little bit better, maybe get more of the outcomes that you're looking for.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And communicate more effectively and more impactfully with the people that you love, first and foremost.
Yes.
Because it does make a difference.
So I love you.
I love you. I love that. All right, everybody, remember to like, comment, subscribe, leave your reviews, and remember the 3 B's.
Be good to yourself.
Be good to each other, and be safe. Okay, do I need to have the 2 count for that?
Apparently.
Okay.
1, 2.
Be safe. Okay. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to FitBody Lifestyle. We hope today's episode has left you feeling motivated and equipped to tackle your fitness goals, business challenges, and the daily dance of life. Remember to value progress over perfection. Life's tough enough alone. Find the chosen family around you to help you along the way.
If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite streaming platform. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FitBodyFusion.